Welcome, everyone, to another episode of America's Local Leaders here on America's Local Voice. We have in studio here a tried and true guest of the show, someone who's been involved in our community for very, very long, and a leader in the community. So I think you reconnected with my friend Dawn, my assistant, who helps me run everything. She's the one to make sure that this all, I'm going to make my flag turn around, there we go, goes the way it should, and get the best guests on our show to talk about the current events. So tell me, what's going on in the world of Ann Moloney?
Well, Carter, it's so great to be here. I'm so glad you're doing so well, and thanks to all the viewers that tune in and really care about what's going on. So there are two big dates in Ann Moloney's life this last year. August 24th, that was the morning that I received the sad news that my state representative had suddenly passed away. Ken Waller, God rest his soul, he had a very long career of serving his community and being a public servant to everybody in the 114th District in Jefferson County, Missouri. And at that moment, I knew I needed to run for office. I needed to help represent our community and pick up where Ken left off. So I really had done a lot of praying about this, a lot of soul searching. Do I want to get back into politics? I've been very active with the Federated Republican Women Club in Jefferson County, and I love the folks I meet and connect with. They're all wonderful people that really care about our community. The second thing that happened that was big in my life recently, Carter, Charlie Kirk's death. I think I can speak to everybody. We all were affected by what happened on September 10th, and it made us all do some very big soul searching and what's really in our heart, what is really required of us, what is God asking us to do, what are the gifts that we've been given that we need to be using that maybe we're not using. And that was really what hit home for me. I'm sure you as well. So I felt like, okay, I have got to step forward. I must have the gift of the Holy Spirit with courage to just come forward and run for office again.
Well, you're a leader in the community, somebody that a lot of people look up to. I remember when you and I were first introduced, it was at an event down in, was it Arnold area, and their political event, and tried to bring some awareness to the community, and at that time of year when votes are people determine who they're going to vote for. And when I was struck, because you're just such a compelling person with regard to just kindness and empathy, and but also very knowledgeable and,
well, thank you.
and informed. And so when I began to chat with you, I was like, okay, here's a young lady who knows what she's doing. I wonder what her involvement is here. And as you and I got to know each other, I know then you ran for office previously and a very successful campaign, and then kind of put your footprint on the fact that you can lead and share with people what you stand for and what the things you believe our community needs. Tell me where that has taken you now, and what your platform is going to entail here in this next election.
Well, sure. Well, Carter, I'm a big believer that if you just keep praying and asking God and connecting with God, He'll put you exactly where He wants you to be. So in 2022, I was running for office, and a gentleman that was the county clerk, been on the ballot for 25 years, ran against me. And, I didn't lose by that big of a margin. It was, I had 44% of the vote, and I had 100% of my integrity when it was done, and I was happy that I lost, quite frankly, because I felt like I did what God had asked me to do. And then the Federated Republican Women Club in Jefferson County said, well, you didn't win, so guess what? You get a big job. You get to be president of our club. I'm like, oh
wow.
No, you can't be on the board of one of these clubs if you're running for office. And that's good. That's a great policy. It's a great bylaw of the Missouri Federated Republican Women. And so I ran this club for the last several years, and I was like, why am I doing this? This is such a pain. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to go to meetings. Nobody wants to run for the board. Nobody wants to, and you kind of get negative with our duties in trying to care for our community. And one day, this thing called Vote No on Amendment 3 came up last year. Mm-hmm. And we realized, wow, we got to do something about this. So we worked really hard in Jefferson County. We had a treasury with our political action committee of Federated Republican Women, and there I was in the middle of it and basically campaigning again to save the baby humans. And we didn't lose, or we didn't win statewide, but in Jefferson County, we actually had defeated Amendment 3 by 3%. And so we were kind of proud of that because our club did a lot of the things that were correct, and now we're using that as a blueprint for the rest of the state. So I'm involved very much with pro-life leadership with our next Amendment 3, which is coming up in November. And really, that's where my heart lies. I'm just running for state rep because I can further that movement more, more effectively, I guess I should say, in the state house. My whole thing is save the baby humans and protect life from womb to tomb. And that's where I come from. I was 5 years old and picketing, we used to call it picket the abortion clinic in 1973.
Right.
And that's where I'm from. That's the heart of Ann Moloney, is to defend the victims and the people that cannot defend themselves. And I found myself pregnant at 15. I know what it's like to want to get rid of a problem that might end up being the best thing that ever happened to you. So we want to give women courage and strength and hope and wonderful opportunities to have their babies. And we have that in Missouri. So there's no reason to have to get an abortion. A lot of folks disagree. So there's Amendment 3 coming up that is going to be pretty much, we're going to change things around and make abortion safe, legal, and rare, because that's about all we can do right now with trying to change this amendment, because it's opened the door to so much, so many different ways that women can get really hurt in an abortion clinic. So we have the new amendment will be up for vote next November, and we're going to be working on that a lot. For Ann Moloney for state rep, you know, I love my community. Everybody's a very we've got wonderful people down in Jefferson County. In 114, it's just like down home people that you love them. And I want to represent my people. And I'm very much, I'm very beholden to these folks that love the rural. And you go into school or you go into the store and they know you and they're just friendly and wonderful, and I want to represent them, and I want to represent them well, and I know I can. I know God gave me the gifts to do it.
Well, tell me then. Yeah, I agree. You're an upstanding person who has firm foundation for what you stand for and what you believe. Tell me, what are the core issues? We talked a little bit about abortion, and that's been a controversial topic. Maybe we'll come back to that a little bit too, because in Missouri, an anti-abortion state for so long, and recently that's changed, and now they're making changes to that. A little bit of a controversy there. But what other core topics do you stand for? Where do you stand on the First Amendment, Second Amendment, and other related issues?
Well, of course, I am a hunter. I taught my sons how to hunt. I got my first deer in 2019. I live on 35 acres. It's a 40-acre family compound in the beautiful hills of Barnhart, Missouri. So, of course, I understand hunting. Missouri Conservation Department's been doing an excellent job of managing the deer population and other wild animals and resources that we have there. So, of course, it's not really about hunting. It's about the right to bear arms, of course. I do carry. I feel like I need to be able to protect myself if I'm on a country road and I have a flat tire. I want to be able to defend myself against a perpetrator in case the police cannot get to me and there's no cell phone. I do believe that we should be able to defend ourselves when we have an invader coming into our home. And I do believe that Second Amendment is so important and it must be protected. We don't have a crisis in guns. We have a crisis in mental health. The mental health issues are so huge, and my mother happens to be an incurable manic depressive. So I've watched how things happen with mental health, and that's a big issue for me. I have a lot of friends that have asked me specifically, Ann, can you get into the House of Representatives? Can you help us get bills? Can you help us get legislation that's going to get our families help? Because who doesn't have somebody with some form of mental illness, some form of addiction, some form of bipolar that they're really struggling with? And that is just so key, and it touches so many people not only just mentally, physically, spiritually, but economically. And so that's a big issue for me, that I really believe I can help with. And that's the whole thing. You don't want to go into something if you don't think you can get anything done. You know, but I have made all these contacts around the state, and I'm so excited to get in there and help with mental health. And then, of course, you know, taxes, way too high. I've never voted for a tax increase, actually. I'm like your frugal girl. Like, where are we wasting? Instead of saying, oh, where do we need another tax hike? The question is, where are we wasting money? And when you start looking in our federal government and in our schools and in different organizations, you can see where we're wasting money. Wasting money does not mean paying for teachers' pensions. And that was a rumor started when I ran last time. They were like, she's going to take away your pensions. And it was like, are you kidding me? I love teachers and I value them very, very greatly. So I want to help our teachers, and I want to help our folks that in my area, especially that are in the labor unions. The labor unions prop up the price of what the regular contractors are getting, right? So it's really important that they have good representation, especially in the 114th, where we have so many folks that are in those unions, and it's so dear to them. And so I want to be there at their meetings. I'm going to start going to their meetings and take advice from people that have been in it for a really long time, and I've got some close friends there.
Tell me then, with regard to our most recent election, Trump being reelected, what are your feelings with regard to his policies so far, and how well do you think he's doing in changing the way he?
Oh, that's so loaded. Well, of course, you know, that's a loaded question because there's so many things going on right now in current events. Now, people may be seeing this all throughout my campaign for the next year, so I'm not going to talk about things too current. But of course, Biden, you know, that whole entire administration was just killing us, right? There was no, I feel like Trump saved us from just, you know, a downward spiral. So I'm very grateful for President Trump. I'm very grateful for the Republican values. I have to tell you, my youngest son went into the Air Force. So that made 8 children in the Air Force. And you'll always hear me say, I've got 8 kids in the military. Now it's mom's turn to serve. But when Mikey went into the Air Force, we had no idea that his military training instructor would be a man dressed as a woman. And that was amazingly tough for him and for the troops that were down there under that type of leadership. So when Trump got in and those things changed, that like literally affected my family immediately and many, many other families. And we were really happy about that.
So where do you see we're about a year into Trump's second presidency here in the middle of 2025, towards the end of 2025. What do you see the path going with Trump, and what do you favor, and what kind of changes, what kind of leadership do you think you're going to provide going forward too?
Well, you know, a big concern recently has been the pro-life leaders are like, whoa, he's cutting off he's made all these cuts to women and family and children with food stamps and things like that. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I was 15 and pregnant. I had a baby when I was 16. I was on aid to families with dependent children for 6 months because they helped me with a huge medical bill. And I was on WIC for 6 months of my life, and it saved me, and it was awesome. But I was on it for 6 months of my life. For 6 months. Not 6 years, not 60 years, not right. 6 generations down. And I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to stop this generational trend of just generation after generation of being on the dole, getting help. You know, we need to empower people to get up and work hard. I work a very long job. I'm in sales and marketing, and I work sometimes 12 or 13 hours a day because I have a desire to pay my mortgage,
right?
And my rising, electric bill, which, of course I want to help with that and bring that down. But I understand what President Trump's doing. He's trying to flip it over and start making people realize that they are accountable. They have to get up and work and get out of bed and work hard. And that's a big job to do because people have gotten really lazy, like really lazy. And so
right.
that's what he's doing.
Well, tell me that with regard to some of the issues more close to home, Kansas City, St. Louis, major metropolitan areas, a lot of issues reside in those major metro cities. And there's populations upwards of 6 million people between the two cities. A lot of inner city struggle. Where do you feel there can be some improvement made in those communities to make St. Louis or make Missouri a better state?
Well, inner cities, actually, I've worked quite a bit in the inner city. And I think, honestly, it's personally loving one another. It's personally showing each other our godliness and our love well, I'm a Christian, so I show my love for Jesus. But when I'm encountering somebody that's a Muslim or Hindu or Jewish or whatever religion they are, it's loving one another. That's what it is. It's all about loving one another.
And we say we've got multiple cameras in here, and we're always changing our angle here to get the perspective on it. But the cities have had much impact on that. That's where more population is moving to the cities now within our across the country. More dependence on the cities, and then you've had Trump go into certain cities and say, "Hey, we're going to help you to organize a little bit. We're going to bring some military support or police support." What are your feelings about that around the country?
All right. In 2016, I was in charge of a international convention here in St. Louis, and we decided to have the first ever 5K run on the river, riverway, the Green Riverway, and we were going to have the first 5K run. And the night before, somebody got shot and killed about a mile down the trail. We had to change our whole thing, and like the people that were there internationally, we had 10 different countries represented. It was so embarrassing for us to have to say, "Oh, somebody got shot and killed. It's no longer a 5K. You're just going to be running 2 miles." It was embarrassing, and that's that's just a little sliver of the embarrassment that's happened all over our country with these cities that are in just total mayhem. And when I can't go down to the Cardinal game and walk down the street, or I feel like I got to leave at a certain time, or better go with the crowd so I don't get, and I can't even park on the street. I have to pay $30 to park in the lot because I'm afraid, and then they're not even going to give me a guarantee. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm so glad that he stepped in with immigration. I'm so glad he stepped in with taking charge in these cities. And really, I'm sorry that it makes some people so angry. But if you're running a city and you've lost all control and it's mayhem, hopefully somebody comes in above you to take over, right? Isn't that what we have government to protect? Isn't that the whole reason of government, to protect the people?
Well, yeah, that is another major issue with regard to immigration, and now the borders have been closed. Do you think that has been the right move, and is that impacting America in the right way? And how does that impact us now that they're deporting many of these illegal aliens, they should call them, or what the proper word is?
Well, if you don't come into the country correctly, then you don't get to stay. You don't get to be here. If you can't follow the rules, if I can't follow the rules, I don't get to drive around, right? If I don't have my car license, I don't get to drive. If I don't have a license, I don't get to drive. I'm not here like just a renegade doing whatever I want. If I came here, to your studio driving 100 miles an hour and a policeman arrested me, I'd be in jail. If you drive through our border and you don't follow the proper steps, you get thrown in jail.
What are your feelings then with regard to the taxes that impact all of that, and the tax rates? You talked about someone you've never voted for a tax increase. Are we generating enough revenue? And that leads me to the tariffs. And what do you think about the tariff situation? Is that making things better or worse in our country right now?
Well, I think temporarily it's going to make it's going to make hardship for people. But we all have to kind of dig in and batten down the hatches and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps to get this country corrected. For the last 4 years, it's been anarchy. It's been insanity. We've had just absolute misuse of our funds, our taxpayer dollars. It's been horrendous. Look at all the things that they've been able to uncover with the Doge movement and trying to find all the waste, the Social Security people that were paid, all of that has to be corrected, and it's going to hurt us, you know. But we have to build together, come together to build a stronger, better country. The United States of America is an amazing country. People are fighting to get in here. Other countries, they're fighting to get out.
Right.
But I don't think that my neighbors need to be paying so much in energy and taxes. Okay, to be very, very clear, we have there's two counties in Missouri that you have to pay for your emissions inspection on your car. I got some old folks down there that have old trucks, and they love their little bit of America, and they love to be able to bloom and grow, and they got some old vehicles that aren't exactly easy to get inspected. And there's two counties, St. Louis County and ours. And this emissions thing, we need to throw that out, because that hurts the little guy. That hurts the retired people. I have a real dear friend whose taxes went up 10 times. And it's like, he's on a fixed, he's older, he's on a fixed income. I hate to call people elderly. I don't want to call anybody elderly. I tell people they're a spring chicken. You're a spring chicken. He's still standing. He's doing great. But we need to get rid of, ridiculous tax increases for elderly people. That hurts. We need to have common sense. What we need is common sense on everything, and that's what I advocate for. We had just recently, Highway 55, they're doing some renovations, and we had 9 people that died very, very tragically, that lost their lives because something was wrong with the way we designed this with Missouri, with either MoDOT or with the way people were disobeying the rules and just speeding down the highway. And so our state legislators got together and said, hey, guys, look, all these people have died. Let's do something now. And they were very effective. And the police are now there and giving out tickets for people that are speeding through. It really wasn't MoDOT poor design. It was just folks coming through without yielding.
Tell me then, with regard to government-related agencies, what programs do you think should be kept that help to instill and support our community? You've got Social Security, you've got SNAP, you've got other welfare programs. Which programs do you think are doing a good job, and what programs do you think should be cut?
Well, I would have to do a thorough analysis of that first. But I mean, of course, you can't touch Social Security. You just can't. There's people that have been promised that was going to be there. You can't do that. We can't betray our people. As far as the other programs that go, I would have to look at the numbers to tell you exactly. That's not my area of expertise, but I know that in my county, there's a lot of folks that feel that they are really kind of being ripped off by energy bills, by taxes. They're not living the American dream. They're working harder, they're working longer, they're not getting paid as much, and then they're seeing folks that are kind of on, welfare system, and it makes them angry. So I think that we need to be really, really analyzing that very carefully.
What do you feel then what is the proper role for welfare? I mean, a lot of people tell you it's not something that should make someone dependent on the government. You want people to it's a leg up, not a leg for a long version of what they're doing. So help people get the leg up, not be stuck on a program like that. Is that the best way it should function? Or
you're not doing anybody a favor by enabling them, if they don't really need the services. You're not doing anybody a real favor by just giving them services and money if they don't absolutely need it. And that's not really helpful. It's just like if you got your kid living in your basement. All of my children went directly to boot camp after high school because I made life so pleasant for them.
Well, is that part of where does the government's role stand with regard to family services? It's a hand up, is what a hand up versus a hand out. We want to help people to give them support, but not make them dependent.
Well,
where should that step in?
We have a system that doesn't support marriage and family. You're rewarded for not getting married and having more children. So that's right there. Number one, the whole thing is at a point where it needs complete revamping. If you need to if you're in a situation where you need immediate help, we're the most generous country, aren't we? We have all these food pantries and places that can help you and give you shelter. We don't need to tell somebody, yeah, now you're going to be on the welfare system and here's your house, here's your housing. First of all, people that are given stuff, they don't take care of it. You ever notice that?
Yeah, so if you own the house, you'll take care of it, but if you rent the house,
yeah.
If you own it, it's your property.
I'm all for helping my fellow man. I've had many, many, many children that have had to stay at my home through the years. My kids always brought home somebody that needed help. We had a battered women's shelter in our district, and I brought many children home there from carpool. Made friends with the moms. I get it. I completely get it. In ways I don't want to completely express today. But I'm very, I'll help anybody. But we need to give people a leg up. You don't give them a fish, you give them a fishing pole, and you teach them.
Tell me then, with regard to the way the economy is going, what are your feelings with regard to AI and the emerging technologies and the workforce and how that's going to impact capitalism at its best, or is it going to cause a strain on our environment?
Well, AI is really fascinating. What's really cool about that question, my friend, State Representative Phil Amato, he is actually working on a bill for AI, and he came to our club, our Federated Republican Women Club in Jefferson County, our little club, and he came and told us all about what he's doing and how he was at a funeral, and this guy sitting next to him happened to be the AI instructor at Chapel Hill, and they talked, and they're working on a bill, and then we're connecting people. Then I've got another friend that's bringing in a national speaker about AI, so I'm connecting him to Phil Amato, and we're trying to actually work on that in the State House. So I'm excited about working on that. I'm not an expert on it, though. Don't get too deep in the weeds on me.
Well, it's just a matter, it is something that has impacted the way our world is going to function, and they're worried about the big job displacement. But are there any other topics that you feel are more urgent that we should discuss? We've got about a minute left here for what you think.
You know what? Every single person listening to me needs to understand that our world, our communities, are only as good as the folks that are willing to get out and serve. It's public servants are there with a servant's heart. Some of them are there with the realization that they want to serve the public. It's kind of like you don't really get paid for it. And then there's folks that are there waiting for the public to serve them. So you have to discern who's who. And just give it some prayer, and I think God will show it to you.
Ann Moloney, everyone, state rep candidate, Missouri State's House. She's running for office here, and would appreciate your support, I guess.
Yeah,
But
vote for Ann.
Best way for people, Ann for rep.com.
That's right.
Stay tuned, everybody. Giddy up.